Lauderdale, Florida. This is NAB Show Live.
With continuing coverage of the 2017 NAB Show in Las Vegas, this is NAB Show Live, and I'm your host, Ryan Salazar. So today we have Eric Openshaw, General Manager of Pebble Beach Systems. How you doing, Eric?
Good, thanks, Ron. How are you?
Doing excellent. So we love chatting with you guys. You guys have great technology. Let's talk virtualization. Everybody's talking about it, but I understand that Pebble Beach is doing virtualized playout successfully with customers today. Could you tell us about that?
Sure, yeah. We've had live deployments out there running on virtualized infrastructure for over a year now. And what that looks like is basically both automation and integrated channel technology running in cloud environments, in virtual machines, doing pretty much the same thing that one would expect in a traditional baseband bare metal environment. So we're handling not only the play out, the automation, the scheduling, the graphics and the audio, but also the IP distribution and downstream switching as well.
So what have you guys done? So what has Pebble Beach done to make this a reality versus just a talking point?
I think the key thing when it actually comes to a real live deployment is really getting everything within the quote-unquote box. It's one thing to virtualize part of the playout pipeline, but if you've only got 80% of it, then you end up back in a sort of old school way of thinking that you then need to connect to downstream systems to provide your graphics or your watermarking or all those different elements. So we've developed a number of partnerships with a lot of other best of breed manufacturers who are now offering up their technology as software plugins that we can actually build into our application. We found, talking to the industry, particularly the tier one operators, they still expect best of breed. So we can do that in a pure software environment, get it all within the same host operating system, and then what we produce out of that as an IP streaming video is a complete product ready for broadcast.
All right, Eric, so obviously you guys are experts in the virtualized playout space. Any advice you can give anybody if they want to get into that?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? We have this conversation a lot, and a lot of the time the advice is questions as much as answers. I typically like to ask people, what are you trying to get out of this? What's driving it? A lot of the time, just the hype and the buzz around it kind of starts driving people down this path of virtualization without necessarily considering what are the actual business benefits for them. So that's an interesting question to put on the table. What kind of comes from that as a sort of secondary effect is reskilling the workforce, because it's a very different paradigm for a vendor to sell a box in a very contained and controlled ecosystem to supply software only that is going to run on infrastructure that is managed by the customer or their contractors. And that reskilling and having the ability to manage and maintain that infrastructure is a huge undertaking, and in a lot of traditional broadcast facilities, those skills are not yet there. So there's a sort of personnel question worth considering. I think probably the third point that I would make is simply don't assume that it's easier or necessarily cheaper to build virtualized playout. As I said, you really need to consider what are the business benefits, why are we having this conversation in the first place, to make sure that it all makes sense.
All right, so an automation system is key and integral to play out to air or OTT. So how can a broadcaster upgrade or change legacy automation systems without taking the station off the air during working hours?
Yeah, that's another great question. I mean, really, any type of upgrade of a master control application like automation, you really got to be thinking about migration from the start. It is a huge undertaking, that transition period. Not only moving from an older system to a new system, but all the subtleties with the workflows that go with it. It's really important that if you're going to undertake something like this, you're talking to a vendor that has the experience with migrating from whatever system you're coming from, and understands the expectations that may perhaps not actually be written down in any type of document, but operationally and so on. One of the interesting things that we built into the product suite is the ability to interface with legacy automation systems so that we can actually coexist with them, have metadata exchange between them, maybe even loading a legacy playlist directly into the Marina automation system. that helps a lot with the transition. If you can get the facility in a state where you're actually running two systems in parallel for a certain amount of time, and the customer can cut over at a point that is convenient for them. Finally, the other thing that helps a lot with migration and transition is having a very configurable user interface, so that we can try to mimic some of the things that operators are familiar with the system that they're coming from.
All right, again, the 2017 NAB Show is in Las Vegas from April 22nd through the 27th at the Las Vegas Convention Center. I can't wait to be there. All sorts of great hardware and software and just excellent people to network with. Again, Eric Openshaw, General Manager of Pebble Beach Systems, thank you so much, and we'll see you in Las Vegas.
Thank you, Ryan. See you there.